Hello and welcome to TechnoStrasse. Please get in touch at TechnoStrasse, but we're going to get straight into it. It's finally here. Richie Hawtin's Play Differently officially revealed, and sort of released on Tuesday with an amazing Berlin Boiler Room set. Sort of likes of Richie Hawtin, Dubfire, Hito, White Noise, Chambray, and many more, delivering these cutting edge sounds on what is a serious forward-thinking mixer. So now that it's all been revealed, what do we know? Well, 6 channels and no crossfader. We got that right in our last video. However, instead of a frequency shifter or a frequency modulator, what you do, if you look at the front panel, the main panel, what you get is a frequency selector and then high and low pass. So I think what you do there is you select which frequencies you want to shift, be that the low end, the mids or the highs, and then you manipulate those with the filters, and it allows, if you watch the video that DJ TechnoStrasse did, it allows you to kind of separate the kick from the bass or the bass from the kick, or rides from the hi-hats, which is really interesting, especially in like minimal techno. Master EQs and filters along the sides as well, so you can EQ or filter everything that's coming out of your mixer instead of just separate channels. And every channel has AUX outputs and sends and receives, so you can really layer up all those effects. If you watch the live stream, you can see it really is a solid mixer built over here in the UK, which is good news for me. And if you looked on the live stream, they can be linked together. If we look at the back panel, we've got inputs for external sound cards, and interestingly, 2 power supplies. So does this mean that DJs are going to need 2 plugs? We're not quite sure, but they can be chained together like we saw in the live stream, enabling back-to-back sessions, which is what they executed perfectly on that live stream. Check it out over on playdifferently.com as well. That's where you can download the technical manual and all these pictures, and you can really get in there and look at what you can do with it. Right now, however, we're going to bring in our man from Detroit. He's going to assess how will it change DJing, because we think it kind of will, but let's get a second opinion. So I'm going to bring in Alex Metro, direct from Detroit. Long-term player in the Detroit game, the one and only Alex Metro. Hello, Alex. How are you?
Good. How's it going?
I'm all right. It's a bit late here, but what we're going to do now, hopefully, is discuss how will it really change DJing, becoming a game a lot longer and seen a lot more things than I have. So what do you think about this Model 1 mixer, and will it really revolutionize the game?
I definitely think that and I've got the specs of it over here, I definitely think that there are some things on there that even myself, I've never even heard of. Like you mentioned, I've been around techno for quite some years now, almost 25 years, and I have seen a lot of changes. I can remember the days originally where we only had one master EQ on a whole mixer, and it always seemed like we wanted to have more flexibility. And then some of the newer Vestax models that were coming out, and some of the newer Rain models that were coming out at the time, like the PMC series from Vestax and the Rain MP series, like the 22, they started to break it up, and they started to do individual channels for the EQs. And that seemed like a great option and to have that flexibility. At the same time, there's things on there on this new mixer that I've never even heard of. For instance, let's see, what the Tascam outputs. I guess that is supposed to be able to go into whatever sound card you're using. Personally, I don't know how that's going to work. I'm real curious to see, how all that stuff attaches. I do remember seeing on the old Control 92 mixer that Richie used, he had a port on the back of that mixer, and I always wondered what it was. I guess now the question's kind of finally been answered with this new mixer, with these D sub in and D sub out. But some of the stuff like the dual power supplies, I really don't understand the need of dual power supplies. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish with dual power supplies.
Is that just to make it look really meaty and it needs 2 power supplies because it's a big boy mixer?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I don't know if there's a requirement, like if there's additional power requirements because of these alternate means of communicating with some of these other devices. For instance, now it has the mixer link built into it as well, where it looks like you can actually put two mixers together. So in the case of using the mixer link, does that mean that if I have the dual power supplies hooked up, does that mean maybe I don't have to power that other mixer?
Yeah.
Does that give me the ability to have that other mixer next to me, and maybe we can just keep all of the cables over at that end of the DJ booth and not have to drag much? It's just all through one cable. That would be some amazing flexibility, quite honestly. Because, for instance, when I do my back-to-back set with Diesel Punk, another Detroit artist, there's wires everywhere. And it is a complete and total nightmare, especially when you're trying to do a quick changeover right after, and you've got to pull all of your equipment out to let maybe one guy now come in there, and he's not going to use any of your equipment. Yeah. So if that's what that mixer link does as far as power and everything else, that is definitely next level.
Well, on the live stream, definitely they had two setups, and because it was really short, sharp, half an hour sets, they were, one person was setting up on one mixer whilst the other DJ was playing on the other one, and the transitions were quite smooth. They weren't quite beat matching into each other, but they were bringing it down and going, this is the Boiler Room, and up next we've got Fabio Florido, and then they kick straight off. So I think it was working really well. I think one of the interesting things is with these, it hasn't got like the traditional high, mid, low, and I know the Zone 9.2's got it's got high, mid, and then two low knobs, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's got a low and a low mid, or mid low is what I should say. It has mid low, mid high, and then low.
This one,
and it does give you a lot more flexibility, but the way he's doing this now with these sculpting EQs and frequency changers, here's the thing. Bottom line, Richie is very smart. He's very technical, even though he acts like, I'm just a musician.
Yeah.
He knows a lot. His father was a robotics engineer for General Motors. The first time I ever talked to Richie about technology was at a party called Trip 3, or was it Trip 2? One of the trip parties that it was, and it was at a place called Alvin's in Detroit. I thought it was amazing because Richie had this device mounted above his mixer, and it was just 3 dials, and basically what it was a frequency isolator. Yeah. And so when I saw here that he was kind of alluded to an isolator but saying it's not an isolator, I found it kind of interesting that he kind of even brought that technology back into it, being that was, over 20 years ago. But he's always kind of been on the edge of doing these things. I mean, his involvement in Final Scratch in the very beginning, even Beatport and all those things, he's not afraid to really break barriers in terms of technology. This is really kind of the next evolution of what he's coming up with and what he's driving in terms of DJing. And will this change DJing? I think it will, because I think some of these new EQs and some of these new options that people have, if they use them, could definitely change. Unfortunately, I have a lot of friends that have the Zone 92, and I use everything on the Zone 92. I use all 6 channels, the sends, the receives, everything. None of my friends that have the same mixer use any of that stuff at all. So that's, something you got to think about with this new mixer is you've got all these options, but do people want to use it?
Yeah.
I mean, so from a sales standpoint, at the end of the day, how well is this device going to sell? Are people going to buy it just because, it's Richie's mixer? Are they going to buy it because they like the features that come with it? Or, I think given the price point, I think a lot of people are going to have to really decide whether or not these are going to be things that they're going to actually use before they make their purchase versus, running out and purchasing it. I'm not surprised that there's not a sound card. I said that from the very beginning, that I didn't think there would be a sound card in it. Biggest reason is I think it kind of limits the life of the device. If he puts a sound card in there and then, now FLAC is out. Well, to run FLAC, you can get better performance out of FLAC if you use a higher bitrate sound card, so now everybody's got to run out and buy a different sound card. Well, if you dump $3,000 into this mixer, you're not going to want to go out and buy another sound card. It's good that he's kind of future-proofed the mixer in a way with not putting the sound card in there and keeping everything as flexible. And in terms of that flexibility, that analog overdrive That's pretty cool. So that's essentially a preamp that will help boost the sound levels and sound quality of vinyl or anything. So you don't have to worry about, I'm going to play vinyl and it's not going to sound as good as, the person who's going to play an MP3 player or an MP3 file or a high quality WAV file. He's built in some technology there that's going to be able to boost that performance of any medium that you're really using, not just digital platforms.
That really came out on the live stream because we had people like Hito playing all vinyl, going straight over to Fabio Florido, using his laptop and playing very sort of minimal techno, and then I think the next person on the lineup was on USB sticks or even CDs on CDJs, right. And it all sounded perfectly fine. And in fact, I think actually the vinyl sounded probably the best quality out of all of them. So obviously the mixer is doing something right in that it's making all three very different formats sound equally as good and equally as rich.
Right. And that's pretty impressive. Unfortunately, I have this thing called a real job. And I wasn't able to watch the live stream at all yesterday, and today's been kind of crazy, so I didn't have a chance to go back and watch it again, or watch it for the first time, I should say. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. And that's great information that you're providing. That all I've heard is essentially if I had heard any of his DJ mixes where he might have played it, in the past few months, and then obviously the Exchange LA. That one I've listened to it a few times, of course looking for hints of maybe what could be included in this new device. So that's pretty much all I've heard of it. So I'm very curious to go back and listen to the Boiler Room sets just to see if I can notice any different, any types of differences or anything like that. He definitely didn't have it with him in Detroit when he played here in November. So I got a really close-up shot of the DJ booth, and it was not there. The only thing he did have was he was using the Zone K2 controllers and not the X1s that he used to use. So he had made the switch to those, but not to.
But I think the mixer it's not meant to be there and pushing things in your face. I think maybe it's meant to be a bit more subtle and a bit more kind of behind the scenes mixing style, maybe.
Well, like I said, I heard the in the Exchange LA, and I actually was able to recreate that sound with a frequency modifier in Ableton on some 909 hats. So that kind of gave me some clues, and I also went and listened to the originals of the tracks that he played at that set to see if I could hear any of the differences. And I don't know, I think Richie always kind of plays with a little bit of reverb and a little bit of filter just to kind of give it a slightly different sound when he plays, period. Because they always sound a little bit different, even when he was using the Zone 92. I guess it's kind of to add more of a live effect to the music that he's playing. But I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary, except for the plate sounding hi-hats. It was basically a plate sound on a delayed hi-hat, so they were kind of and they sound freaking cool as hell, by the way. But yeah, so that was kind of one of the things that tipped me off to the frequency shifter. But overall, man, I think this device is going to be awesome, and I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing one at Movement. They set up a tech area at Movement every year, and it's pretty extensive. They had, all of Roland, Native Instruments. They had a bunch of different vendors, and I'm hoping that there's a Play Differently vendor booth as well this year, because I would definitely like to take a look at this thing.
Thank you very much there to Alex. So that's what we think about the Play Differently mixer. What do you guys think? Please let us know at TechnoStrasse, technostrasse.com, or just search TechnoStrasse on Facebook. Do you think it's going to change the way we DJ? Do you think it's for everyone or just for a specialist select unit of DJ producers? And what about that price point? Will you be saving up to get one? Well, please let us know at TechnoStrasse on Twitter. I'll see you next time.